I'm excited to be joined by David Rattray, the CEO of UNITE-LA, outgoing, to learn more about your leadership and priorities. What, have you really been focused on in your role in leadership?
Our priority has been to transform education workforce development so all young Angeleno youth, especially youth of color, thrive and prosper in an economy, and that economy thrives as well.
What have you seen in terms of the transformation of the education and workforce development system, including the racial justice priorities you just mentioned?
I guess I'd start by just saying we've come so far and we have so far to go. We had high schools that we were working with going back over the last 20 years that had graduation rates as low as 30 to 40%. And these were almost entirely Latino and African American students. Those same high schools now, some of them are graduating as high as 90% of their students from high school. We've seen increases in college going rates with a lot of the same populations. And we're really pleased and proud the governor finally named a number, something we've been advocating for a decade. He's named the number of 70% completion by 2030 for Californians to complete a college degree. That's the right aspiration we should have for our students.
How, as a leader of UNITE-LA, have you, stayed connected to that passion and that courage while also operating in a political world where a lot of compromise and trade-off needs to happen?
Often, I think a white male of privilege like me wants to stand behind his black and brown brothers and sisters. Who am I when I don't have that lived experience? One of the things I learned, Micah, is what my sisters and brothers actually want is for me to stand forward and say, yeah, call it out and say it exists and say I'm committed to do something about it, dismantling these kind of structural problems that we have in our society. And I was insecure about playing that role. But I learned that I had to get over that discomfort and step into that role and step alongside my leaders of color and be with them in brotherhood, sisterhood. And that made a big difference.
How do you see the, sort of upheaval and unrest of the last couple of years, whether it's the global pandemic or the, calls for racial justice? How is that sort of energized? And then how has that sort of been a drag on the things we're looking to accomplish?
COVID was devastating to them as students that were often at home and disconnected. But we learned about the digital divide in ways that we weren't paying attention to. And we also saw their families themselves disproportionately affected by COVID. So it was horrifying, really, to experience what was happening, but also revealing. And for those that are courageous, it was a moment of clarity that, yes, we've come a long way. We have so far to go because racial injustice and inequities in our society and our institutions and our economy are still enormous. I think it exposed things in a way that gives at least the opportunity for true leadership to emerge. I think it's a moment of hope if we have the courage to embrace, the necessary tough decisions and the kind of focus that needs to happen.